Even honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. And we get John 5:39. Praise Yah for the Shabbat and for the word. And it says, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that come from Alahym only? So, what? Okay, this is not the time to read the book. Let's take ourselves over to Deuteronomy 29. Matter of fact, no. Let's take ourselves to Job chapter 5 and verse 8. Sit down. This is not playtime. You've been playing all day. You're not finna play right now. Job 5 and 8. And it says, I would seek unto Alahym, and unto Alahym would I commit my cause, which do great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number, who give rain upon the earth and send waters upon the fields, to set up on high those that be low, those which mourn may be exalted to safety. He disappoint the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He take the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. So notice that he says he takes those that are low and he sets them up on high. And he takes those who and he disappoints the devices of the crafty. So we will sit back and look at what he's referring to in this particular passage. Of course, we're just going to mention that word devices again, because that's been the focus for the last two occasions. And again, it's that word ma'ashava, which is your thought, device, plan, or purpose, or invention. When we look at enterprise, the word for enterprise is tushia. And it's something of sound knowledge, success, or efficient wisdom, or abiding success, or working. So he's saying that they won't be able to have success. Stop it. Sit down and be still, or you can go get in the bed. Now, which option do you want? Do you want to get in the bed? Then sit down and be still. So, when he sit back and he says he takes the wise in their own craftiness. Well, we see with this craftiness, again, that's taking us to the shrewdness or subtlety to the Alahym. And that's the Hebrew word for Alahym. It takes us back to what we were discussing with the serpent being the most subtle beast of the field in Genesis. The shrewdness, the skill, and the craftiness. As I asked some of y'all to listen to a video of an individual speaking about a matter, and one of the men in that video said that this man's intellect was stopping him from hearing what Yahuwah had to say. Again, we see that word froward again. And when we see that word froward, it's pathal, and that is something that it means to be twisted. So he said he takes the counsel of those who twist things headlong. He destroys it. If you're twisting things, it's the distorting of the truth. When we see that that's what the serpent did. Let's look at something in 1 Timothy chapter 2. You could just keep a finger on Job and get you Psalms 140. This is the second aspect of what we're looking at about devices. Because we know that's the intent. And that if we are aware of Satan's devices or his purposes or his intents, then he cannot get an advantage over us. 1 Timothy chapter 2, and we'll pick it up at verse 13. See, if we don't know his purposes and intents, then he'll get an advantage over you. See, a lot of people live their life in thinking that sometimes that people, yes, he's all right. So a lot of people sit back and they get the feeling that you don't necessarily have to point out the adversary and say, here he is, here he's doing this, he's doing that. If you know his purpose or his intents or how he moves, you can see that based off their actions, and no one has to tell you anything. You know what I'm saying? If you know the devices of Yahuwah, or the purpose or plan of Yahuwah versus the purpose and plan of the adversary, then you can clearly be able to ascertain who is of Yahuwah and who is not. Because people who have the purpose of Yahuwah are not going to make certain moves. They're not going to do certain things. Nevertheless, he said, for Adam was first formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. What we're focusing on is the woman being deceived. What was she deceived by? She was deceived, again, one of her own heart and her own desires, because she did have the purpose and intent to do this on her own volition. Let's not skirt the accountability here. At the same token, the adversary came to twist, or came to give the counsel of the froward, or the counsel of the pathal. He came to give the counsel of what was twisted. Because the adversary likes to take what Alahym has and do this with it. Since I mentioned it beforehand, Matthew chapter 16. Do you have slippers? Where are your slippers? Are your feet cold?
I got the big spot.
Alright, hold on, man. Hey,
What happened?
hold on, man. Golly.
Smashed his finger. What happened, Uncle Wayne?
I smashed my finger.
Yes, smashed his finger.
This service is provided in high definition by free conference call HD.com. Please announce yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that, y'all.
I was cleaning my dress.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right. Matthew chapter 16. And we looking at this here because one of the purpose of intents of the adversary is what I had referenced to y'all beforehand in Matthew chapter 16. So we will look at Matthew chapter 16 and verse 21. From that time forth, began Yahushua to show unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders. Lizzie, if I have to say something to y'all again, I'm going to strike both of you. From that time forth began Yahushua to show unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, master, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Hashatan, thou art an offense unto me. For thou savor not the things that be of Alahym, but those that be of men. Now we're going to look at something and see what, would you like to go? And we're going to see what this means. Look at the thing that the master said. He told the adversary that he was an offense. He was offended by him. And he was offended by him because he savors, desires, or relishes the things that be of man and not the things that be of Alahym. And that is one of the purposes, intents, and devices, if we seek to be the sons and daughters of Alahym, that we must possess. When we look at the Greek word for offense, that word is skandalon, and let's see what it means. It literally means something that is a trap or a snare, something that is an impediment placed in the way, causing one to stumble or fall, a rock which is a cause of stumbling. So when he turned around and he looked at the adversary, he's telling the adversary, you are a trap to me. And this is kind of goes along what I was mentioning beforehand about I don't necessarily have that problem of getting caught up in a trap of friends or family because I don't have any. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. So these people can't be a trap. So the trapping is going to be just the own desires of your own self, or some people who masquerade or pretend to be something they're not in the word for the means that cause one to stumble. And when we look at savor, the things that thou savorest, and that Greek word for savorest is to feel or to think or to have opinion on oneself, or to be of the same mind or direct one's mind to a thing. And the Greek word there is phroneo, or to seek one's interest or advantage. So what we seen, what did the adversary did? He wanted to seek it, and that goes back to why the woman was deceived. You know what I'm saying? She was deceived because the adversary sought to take advantage. Which goes back to what Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 2 and 11 when he stated that lest he should gain advantage of us because we are not ignorant of the adversary's devices. And you have to sit back and look at it. Is that this man is a anybody who is outside the word can be a trap to you because they're seeking to cause you to stumble whether you know it or not. This is one of the reasons why the Father told you when you came in the land to have no dealings with the people of the land, because he said they would become a snare and a trap. Matter of fact, because we are dealing with the law quite fervently, let's sit back and look at that, and let me pull the verse up for that. If y'all don't sit down and be still. Now you just came in here. Exodus chapter 34 and verse 12. And after that, Judges 2 and 1. Keep your hands on Psalms 140. But don't come in here playing, boy. You go get in the bed. Exodus 34 and 12. Listen to what he's about to tell you. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou go, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. But you shall destroy their altars, and break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other God, for Yahuwah, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Alahym. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. And thou take thou of their daughters unto their sons, and thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a whoring after their gods. Now, of course, this should harken back to a lot of the things that we were looking at when we looked at all of those kings. Is that the people constantly went after the nation's gods for fooling with them, because these people ended up becoming snares and traps. You have to sit back and look at it, that anybody that this man that comes across in your lifetime could be a test to prove where your heart is and where your faith and loyalty lies in regards to Yah himself. Because he also told you that he wouldn't run all the people out of the land just to see what we were going to do to prove us or not. And we don't never sit back and consider these things, because in order to receive the Ruach HaKodesh from Yahuwah, you have to be proved and you have to be determined to be faithful in all things before he bestows that upon you. Because the Master said, if you ain't been faithful over what is another's man's, who is going to commit to your trust the true riches? If you can't be faithful in things that are of this life, this man is not going. He's not going to judge you faithful to watch over what is already yours. He wants to give you that. He wants to give you every blessing and gift of the Ruach, but you have to be deemed faithful and loyal to him in all things before he bestows it upon you. So he's just not going to dispense that to you. So your plans and your inventions and your devices and your thoughts need to be in line with his perfect will, irregardless of what is going on around you. This is why this man said, if you love father or mother or son or daughter or wife or husband, whoever more than me, he said, you're not worthy of me. He said you have to be willing to abandon all that you have in order to receive him. This is the part of the game that we don't really understand. When you say abandon, does that mean that you have to cut every single solitary person off in your life that you ever known? Absolutely not. That means these people will never come before your love of Yahuwah, and not a single solitary situation in your life. You don't care who it is. You don't care what it is. It's not going to matter, because your allegiance is to Yahuwah Ba'Shem Yahushua first in every single solitary thing, and it will not be compromised. If you build your house upon the rock, this cannot and will not be compromised for not a single solitary person upon the face of this earth. And it doesn't matter who it is. You don't care if they get mad. You don't care if they gnash their teeth. You don't care if they're willing to put their hands on you. You don't care if it'll get you locked up. You don't care if it'll get you killed. It doesn't matter. And this is the type of faith and trust in him that Yahuwah requires and he seeks to find in his service. This is why he says those that worship him must worship him in Ruach and in truth. And as we've been looking at, the whole law is dictating for you to believe and trust in Yahuwah. There is not anything too hard for him. But we believe things are difficult for him, and then he don't bring it to pass, and then we blame him for not bringing it to pass, when really it's our faith that is not up to par, because we're not trusting in him completely, and we're more concerned with the people around us or the people of the land. Even the people of our own kinsmanship, we still have to look at, while they're walking around in a state of uncleanliness by reason of sin, that they're considered to be the people of the land, because they're uncircumcised in heart, while these people are uncircumcised in the flesh. Nevertheless, Judges chapter 2. Lizzie. It's about time for y'all to go to bed anyway. Y'all ready to go to bed? Judges 2:1. Alahym of Yahuwah came up from Gilgal of Bochim, and said, I made you to go up out of Mizraim, and I brought you unto the land which I swear unto your fathers, and said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land. Ye shall throw down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? Wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be as thorns in your sides, and their gods shall be a snare unto you. Now let's pull where he quoting it from in the law. I think we want Deuteronomy 7, about verse 14. Let me make sure. I think that's what we want out of the law, so we can see these things out of the law. And all this is really pointing to is just sanctification. It's really just all it is sanctification. See, 7 and 14. I'll make it 7 and 12. It's really just about sanctification. Because I can't tell no grown person who they can talk to and who they can't talk to. Everybody grown you can talk to and go do whatever you want to with whoever you want to whenever you want to. You know what I'm saying? But we have to sit back and consider what the word of our Alahym says, and let our actions and judgments and decisions be dictated off of that. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if you hearken to these judgments and keep and do them, that Yahuwah the Alahym should keep unto thee the covenant and mercy which he sware unto thy fathers, and he will love thee, and baruch thee, and multiply thee, and he will also baruch the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, thy corn, thy wine, thy oil, the increase of thy kind, the flocks of thy sheep in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Thou shalt be baruched above all people. There shall not be male or female bearing among you, or among your cattle. And Yahuwah will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Mizraim which thou know upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. Now I'm going to mention y'all something. It's something, if you didn't catch it, I'm going to just reiterate this here to you. Notice that this man say that if you obeyed him, that he would cause the people to have children. Sometimes we don't even say, because another place it says the fruit of, no. Sit down. I know in another place in the book of Psalm, he tells us how the fruit of the womb is the blessing of Yahuwah. And notice that he told the people that if they obeyed, no woman or man would be barren, that they would be a fruitful bough, that they would produce branches or children repeatedly. We don't sit back and look at that. People say, let me tell you something, right? If you have a lot of kids or you get pregnant and you sinning, that's not a blessing. Don't let nobody lie to you. That's not no blessing. Don't let nobody fool you. No child produced of sin is a blessing. If you think that's a blessing, you are a spiritual idiot. You know what I'm saying? And clearly you don't trust and believe in Yahuwah or read nothing that he said, because that is not a blessing. He just said that it's a blessing if you do it, if you obey him. Don't sit back and look at it getting the increase of the things that you desire, and then you outside the will of Alahym in the process of acquiring those things. That is not a blessing. 99.9% of the time, it is a snare and a trap for your destruction if you don't have enough wisdom to repent and turn from your evil and wicked ways and conform yourself to the righteous will and kadeshness of the living Alahym. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. That's the sense you're supposed to have. That's what you're supposed to consider. Nobody wants to tell anybody that because nobody wants to offend anyone. Because everybody is so soft-hearted and worrying about don't hurt my feelings. Who cares about your feelings if you lose your soul? When it comes down to your soul, your feelings should not be your concern. Or the feelings of others. Because this is your soul. Because guess what? If you go to jail, your friends and family can't do that bid for you. You got to go do that bid. They can't get you out of it. And if you go to hell, can't nobody get you out of that. So that's the first thing that you have to, number one, Peter told you this in the book of Acts. Save yourself from this untoward generation. Matter of fact, let's just look at it before we continue. Acts chapter 2. That's the number one. Look here, right? It's not good to be selfish in nothing except for this one particular matter. And that's delivering your soul. That's the one thing you ought to be selfish about. Acts 2 and 37. You ought to be desperately selfish about that. You ain't got no business being selfish and nothing else in life other than that. Because you got to protect your life. You got to protect that. Because this the only one you get. Because he's not going to want to hear no excuses about nothing when you got to. You got a chair. Acts 2 and 37. Now when they heard this, they were pricked in their heart and said unto Peter and to the rest of the apostles, Men and brethren, what shall we do? And Peter said unto them, Repent and be immersed every one of you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach for the remission of sins, and you shall receive the gift of the Ruach HaKadosh. For the promises unto you and unto your children and to all that are afar off, even as many as Yahuwah your Alahym shall call. And with many other words did he testify and exhort, saying, Save yourselves from this untoward generation. Now let's just see what that word in Greek for untoward is. He said you need to save yourself from this untoward generation. If I told you you already got a chair, why would you creep over there and try to get another one? It's the same chair. Cut that off. Go put it in your room. The word for untoward is scolios. And it is the word means crooked or curved, also untoward or froward, but mainly perverse or wicked. So he's telling you that you need to save yourself from this wicked people. We already read how he feels about the froward. We already read how he feels about the froward. That he takes their counsel, those who pervert and the perverse, and cast it headlong. He destroys them. Because of the devices and the intents and the plans of their heart. They are purposely planning to be perverse and crooked. So you have to sit back and consider that. And this is where it comes in at being wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Because you have to have enough wisdom to peep and see the devices and plans and purposes of the adversary, no matter who he works through, and to recognize it. Because Hamashiach peeped the working of the spirit of the adversary. Because the adversary is a trap and a snare. And he's trying to catch you and ensnare you and enrapture you in order for you to fall off so you can savor the things that be of man and not the things that be of Yah. You got to have enough wisdom to see that. Irregardless of who it is. Back to Deuteronomy chapter 12. Verse 15. I already read verse 15. We're in verse 16. Thou shalt consume all the people which Yahuwah thy Alahym shall deliver thee. Thy eye shall have no pity upon them, neither shall thou serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto thee. And that's the thing that where we get caught up at is, Yah tells us not to have any pity for anybody who is contrary to him. You're supposed to have mercy and compassion and deal with them justly and humbly in hopes that they turn from their evil and wicked ways. Matter of fact, as Paul put it, that peradventure Alahym would cause them to stop opposing themselves. But you just sit back and look at it. You can't. That's the same token like I told y'all a long time ago. A dude told me, how would I feel if I saw my mama in hell? I wouldn't be sad. I'm not going to be sad at all. I wouldn't shed a tear. I wouldn't ask no question because I know the word of Alahym. She would have earned that trip. And the dude was flabbergasted that I could say something like that. Because you got pity on people because of what your familiar or relationship status is to them, instead of worrying about what your relationship status is to Alahym. Because that's all that matters. Because he all that you have. If the word says you're a companion of those that fear thee, then you have to sit back and look at that. Because you got to remember what the law says that he told Aaron about his two sons. He told him, you bet not even weep for them, or I'm going to kill you too. And for a lot of us, that would seem very, very harsh. What type of loving God would say that? What are you weeping for somebody who you know was in direct defiance of a directive that I laid down? And you, the high priest, you know they in direct defiance. So for you to order to weep or have pity or to be angry, then you just said that my judgment is not just in my execution of it. Therefore, in actuality, in reality, you got a problem with me. So now you got to deal with me. See, nobody ever wants to look at it in that aspect and consider that. I give you an example. When my auntie say, well, why you just can't, God will understand if you come to the funeral on. No, he won't. Because at this particular point, you're telling me to have a problem with my Alahym, or to have a problem, and no, I don't. And I don't even know you like that to even sit back and say that I would consider doing such a vile thing. But even if I did, it wouldn't be a consideration. It's not a consideration. It's non-negotiable. I don't care. I'm loyal to y'all. I'm not loyal to you. I'm loyal to y'all's people. I don't care who you are to me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It really does not matter. I don't care. Your feelings do not matter to me when who is involved. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Once we go to thinking like that, we will literally begin to take on the mind of a Mashiach. Because all that mattered to him was his father and those who were given to him of his father. He said, my father have given to me, and no man can pluck them out of my hand, and I give them eternal life. That was who his concern was with, those that belonged to him. He was not concerned with anyone who did not belong to him. Not in that aspect. And he definitely wasn't going to go against his father for any man. And we have to have that same framework. Because people out here plotting, planning to do all manner of things to disrespect our Alahym. And we can't be participants with them. Nevertheless, Psalms 140. I got to keep it moving. I got a lot. It's only 9:30 though. It seemed like it's been longer. Psalms 140. Pick it up at verse 2. Let me get myself over there where I need to be at with that. Cause I'm just mentioning it here because I know it's that time of year, and I know some of y'all people gonna be on you hard. You know what I'm saying? I know it's that time of year. I ain't never really discussed it that like this here around this time of year, but I know it's that time though. It's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, and it's New Year's. And for some odd reason, black people feel like these are the only times a year you can go see your people. You know what I'm saying? And I never understood that. I guess the only reason why I never understood because our family, like I said, it was nobody but me, my mama, my sister, my auntie, and my cousin. And we were together regularly. So we didn't need Thanksgiving as an excuse. We didn't need Christmas as an excuse. It was something that was done because that was just a tradition they were given, and they just did it. But we saw and were with each other regularly. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Seeing my auntie and my cousin 3 and 4 times out the week was not an oddity. Us all eating together was not an oddity. That's something that we did quite regularly. Do you know what I'm saying? But I say most people's families aren't that small to execute that. But then I know people whose families are bigger than that, and they do that. We don't need no white man to tell us when to go see our people. Do you know what I'm saying? You want to go see your people, go see your people. Whether they in the word or not, you want to see your grandma, man, get up and go see your grandma. You want to see your granddaddy, get up and go see your granddaddy. You want to see your aunties, your cousins, your nieces, your nephew, your sisters, your brothers, get up and go see them. I ain't mad at you for that. Go see them. And if they want to see you, then you let them know. You know where I live. You got my phone number. You call me. You let me know. We'll set it up and we can do it. It's not a big deal, man. It's not. It is not. It's not that serious. But I know your people going to be putting pressure on some of y'all. I know some of y'all are already probably done dealt with it. with the holiday that just passed. But you know it's finna ratchet up some more because they got another one today. I mean another one to shoot in 30 days. You know what I'm saying? I know these two, these the ugliest ones of the year. So I understand the stress. I know how it is. Especially if you got people coming from all over the place. Niggas only want to come in. Well, which of course I know people's life schedules don't preclude them to. They live in another city or another state just to pop up and come see people. But I will say that I know if somebody come from out of town, I know they're going to be in here for more than one day. And I really be feeling like a lot of times niggas don't be wanting to see nobody. And I say that personally for myself because I know my uncle kept asking where I was at and where I was at. And they knew where I was at. So clearly you didn't want to see me. Because you would have got in your car and rode the 5 to 10 minutes because I wasn't but 10 minutes away. And you could have seen me. So I'm like, so you didn't want to see me. You just talking. Psalm 142. We'll make it 1. Deliver me, O Yahuwah, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, who imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually they are gathered together for war. So we will pull the word for imagine and mischief, because we should already know from Proverbs chapter 6 how he feel about men who put together wicked imaginations and whose feet are swift to run into mischief. The word for mischief is ra, so that's people who imagine evil. And the word for imagine is kashab, and that's to think and to plan and devise. People who like to think and plan evil. And that goes right back to what he's saying about those who savor the things that be a man. Because in this flesh, the book says in Matthew chapter 26, verse 41, watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. For the ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak. No, watching is to guard and to observe the word and to pray. Because that inner man has a desire to do what the word says. That flesh has a desire to do what it wants. Like this here. Okay, Will asked me earlier. Will there be a time frame in a person's lifetime where they will not have an evil or impure thought? Absolutely not. As long as you're in the flesh will have that. The question of the matter is, will you watch and pray so you don't even enter into that temptation to be pulled away from that, because you would cast those imaginations down to bring them into the captivity of obedience to Yahushua HaMashiach? That is the question. See, a lot of people don't cast those imaginations down. They allow those imaginations to foster, and then they begin to calculate, and then they begin to plan, and plans turns into execution, and execution turns into death. Because remember what he told you. He say, Baruch is he who endured temptation, for he receive a crown of life from Yahuwah for all those that love him. Because when a man is drawn away and enticed, he's enticed by his own desire. He say, do not err, my beloved brethren. Because you have to keep that flesh under wraps. And temptation can come from many different forms. It can come by way of situations and circumstances. It can come by way of thoughts. It can come by way of people. It can come by way of places. Whatever it is that is stoked, or whatever it is that your flesh desires. And you have to ask yourself, do the things that you desire to do, are they in line with the will of Yahuwah? And if they are not, you don't have no business. You need to get rid of that desire. You know what I'm saying? Of whatever it might be, because it could cost you your life, and it's not worth it. When this man say, what profit a man that he gained the whole world, that he lose his soul in the process, that just ain't talking about gaining wealth. That's gaining what you want. You can gain the things that you want and lose Yahuwah. And you don't have to necessarily be rich. You might desire certain companionship from certain people, or a certain person for a mate, or a certain job, a certain status. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it might be, and you can lose y'all in the process. That's why he say he knows the imagination. He knows the things you want to plan and do. He already know them. You got to be careful, because he might mess around and get it to you. But let's look at verse 3 though in Psalm 140. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Selah. Keep me, O Yahuwah, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man, who have purposed to overthrow my goings. The proud have hid a snare for me, and cords they have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me. Selah. I said unto Yahuwah, thou art my Alahym, hear the voice of my supplication, O Yahuwah. O Yahuwah the Master, the strength of my salvation, thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. Grant not, O Yahuwah, the desires of the wicked, further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves, Selah. As for the head of those that compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Now that's ironic, because again you see that he said, let their desires be destroyed, lest they exalt themselves. And that takes us right back to what we were looking at in Job, where he said that let him that exalt himself be dropped down. But let's swing over here to Luke 16, I want to say. Just to look at that statement. Because the devices and the promotions and the things of our heart can cause us to exalt ourselves above Alahym. And that's what we don't want to end up getting at. That those things, and after Luke 16, 1 Peter chapter 5. It's a slippery slope that we have to walk. And that's actually Proverbs, Luke 18. It's a slippery slope that 18 and 9, I suppose, that we have to walk. Because you have to be on guard constantly. You know what I'm saying? And a reason why a lot of people not holding on to certain things, because you're not laying the word up in your heart. You got all this other stuff. You got the cares and affairs of this life. It's choking it off, so you're not able to manifest the fruit that you want to manifest. Then we might be also caught up in the framework of Lot's wife. We still looking at the past. Like Paul said, we looking at behind us and not what's ahead of us. So we still want to have attachments to things that have to be released. Whatever they mean. It don't necessarily have to be people. It could be whatever. You have to leave. You have to sit back and look at it. From the time you hit that water and came back out, everything that was after that doesn't matter anymore. You're supposed to be focused on what is before that, and that's meeting your Alahym. Everything else has to be set to the side. It's not important. Because now you stated that you have died to sin and to the world and to your own desires to live unto the righteousness of Alahym. You have to make sure you check that continually. Because now you have stated that my life is not my own and I have been purchased. And you have to live like that. You have to live for him that died and rose again for you, and not to live for yourself. And I think that's the most difficult. And that is the humility, or the humbling yourself, or lowering yourself. So when you get caught up with your own plans, thoughts, and devices, you're exalting yourself over him. And you're saying that you have more authority and power over the man who actually redeemed you. Because you're not considering that you're supposed to be living for him and not for yourself. The minute you found out Yahuwah was the true and living Alahym, and Yahushua was his anointed one, and that you had made the proclamation and confession from the heart out of your mouth that Yahushua was Mashiach and Master, and that he rose from the dead on the third day, you were supposed to have known that you had made a conscious decision to no longer live for yourself. And nobody cares that you're 21 or 22 or 23 or 24 or 25 or however young you may be. Because if you want to do what you wanted to do, then you shouldn't have came to serve the living Alahym. You should have continued to live for yourself. Once you made the decision that you wanted to live for the living Alahym, nobody cares what you want to do. Nobody cares what your desires are. All that matters is that you live for him who rose from the dead for you. And you consider the great work and execution of suffering that he manifested on your behalf, of which you were not worthy to even receive. You have to always keep that at the forefront of your mind. That man did not have to do that. Because what we're reading about is their plots and plans and machinations to kill him. And that he knew that these people were going to plot, plan to kill him. And he did it anyway. And when the plans and devices rose up in his heart of trying to get out of said suffering, he said, no. I will accomplish the plan and device and counsel of the living Alahym. That's why he say there's many purposes or devices in a man's heart, but the counsel of Alahym will stand. Yahushua is the fulfillment of that word in Proverbs. There were devices in his heart that said, don't die. He said no. When Peter stood up and cut that man's ear off, he said, how will the scriptures be fulfilled? I could call for 12 legions of Malachim. What do you mean? But the purpose and plan of Yahuwah must stand. So you have to realize that. You have to understand that. His purpose must stand and not your own. His plan must stand and not your own. Because at the end of the day, what's the use of having lukewarm service and you don't receive the reward at the end of it? The goal and objective is for each and every one of us to get a crown of life laid upon our head at the last day from his hand. I don't know if any of y'all can envision that, but if you can, envision the fact that the man who died for you, rose from the dead for you, will meet you in shalom and place a crown on your head and white robes on you and a palm in your hand. He's going to literally give that to you. You don't have to go in a line and pick your crown up and put it on. Here's your robe and put it on. This man's going to put it on for you. He's going to hand that palm to you. This man is going to crown you himself because you were faithful unto the end and showed yourself to be an upright and just person. You have to remember, that's what you're doing this for. You're not doing this for no husband. You're not doing this for no wife. You're not doing this for no job, no money, no sense of being deemed righteous in the eyesight of men. You're doing this to get a crown of life from this man. That's what you're supposed to be doing. If you're not doing it for that, then what are you doing it for? For something to do? For a social club that has something to talk about? That's lame and stupid. You're supposed to be doing this to get a crown of life. That's what you after. You after eternal life. So that means if people have to be lost, then let them be lost. If things have to be lost, then let them be lost. If jobs have to be sacrificed, then let it be sacrificed. If goals and desires have to be sacrificed for you to stay in the will of Alahym, then let them go. Because at the end of the day, it don't matter if he tell you, depart from me, you work of iniquity, I never knew you. What purpose was it that you gained all of that? It didn't serve you any purpose. That's why I say the thought of foolishness is sin. A plan of folly is transgression because you will eventually execute that plan of folly. If the plan is of righteousness, then you will execute that plan of righteousness, and therefore you will receive eternal life at his hand and forever be with him, and to see his face and his name be in your forehead. Is that not your goal? Is that not your desire above all things, but to see your Alahym and Shalom? Don't you want to see Yahuwah's face? Don't you want to see Hamashiach's face? Don't you want to dwell in a temple that is not made with hands, but Yahuwah and the Lamb are the temple of it? Do you not want to dwell in a city that have no need for the sun or the moon, because the light of Alahym and the Lamb will lighten it? Do you not want to drink living waters as you being led by the right hand of the shepherd to them waters? Do you not want to drink? That's what you got to ask. What do you want? What are you doing it for? If you ain't doing it for that, you doing it for nothing. Luke 18:9. And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Two men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee, the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself: Alahym, I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. Now we know why we're looking at this here for this reason, right? Because you know a lot of brews like to do it at this time of year. Mock these people for keeping Thanksgiving and Christmas, whatever the case may be. They know they don't know, for the most part. And if they do know, okay, you're an idiot. You know better. You don't want to do better. That's on you. But you can't sit back and look at because you perceive that you know something that somebody else don't know, or you not doing something that other people not doing, that you better than them. Because in actuality, you're not. You know what I'm saying? Because you still have the well of pride in your heart, which is what he pointing out. Nevertheless, he said, I fast twice in a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the publican standing there afar off would not lift up so much as his eyes unto Shamahim, but smote upon his breast, saying, Alahym, be merciful unto me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone that exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humble himself shall be exalted. And that's what I mean when you're dealing with every one of you, for the most part, with the exception of DC, I believe, has been immersed. So when you did that, you were saying that you were humbling yourself to be exalted by Alahym in due time. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 3. That's what you were saying. So when you saying that, then you need to sit back and realize you need to humble yourself under the word. And you could care, I don't care what is going on. Nothing is more important than saving your soul. Nothing. And no one should come in front of that. Not a soul. Not your husband, not your wife, not your child, not your mama, not your daddy, not your friends, not your grandparents. I don't care who it is, what they got going on. You should never want to be separated from Yahuwah. Ever, at any time. Especially considering that all of us know that we live, and that's actually 1 Peter 5 and 6. Knowing that, actually 5 and 5. Knowing that all of us knew that we lived a life that had us separated from him. So now in his goodness and his favor and his righteousness and his truth that he revealed that to you, that you can no longer be separated from him, you will continue to participate in activities with or without people that will cause you to be separated from him. That is not wise. It is not wise. It's just not wise at all. And I ain't talking about just because it's no Thanksgiving and all that other stuff. Screw all of that. I'm talking about in general. Period. You know what I'm saying? Screw because it's the holiday. You're talking about period. Don't let anything or anyone cause you to be. You're going to be like that rich man. That anxiety that he had when he realized that he was in torments, separated from Alahym. We can't fail no open book test, ladies and gentlemen. We can't fail no open book test. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For Alahym resist the proud, and give favor to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Alahym, that he may exalt you in due time. Casting all your care upon him, for he care for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walk about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Notice he says steadfast. Somebody that's steadfast is very, very firm and strong in what they believe and what they stand for. Nobody can budge them. No one can move them. No one can persuade them to come up off of their stance. Some people call that, for lack of better terms, it just kind of my mind is strong-willed or stubborn. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to your salvation, you need to be stubborn. You need to be very, very stubborn. You need to be very, very strong-willed and steadfast and headstrong on that I will not be moved for this. I will resist you. I will resist you. I will resist your devices. Now, notice the key thing, right? It's back in Psalms 140. You can come back around and look at that. It's in Psalms 140 that the writer made a statement. He made a statement that this violent man, and this is David, I just wasn't sure if he wrote that one or not, is that he said that their tongues were like serpents. The tongues were like serpents. Adder's poison is under their lips. Now let's look at something when it comes to that, with the adder's poison. And when he hits you with that Selah, you were supposed to pause and you were supposed to consider. And when we look at adders, of course, this is a viper. This is akshuv. This is a viper. This is a snake. But we want to look at this poison, and I wish I spelled that one. We don't got time for that. But it's kama, and it's hot, heat, rage, indignation, wrath, venom, a burning rage, or an anger. So he says when they come and they sharpen their tongues like a serpent, he said their words have anger in them. And through that anger, they want to kill someone. Now remember back in Job, he said that he takes the machinations or devices of the crafty and he destroys them. But we want to look at another place with this, and this is Psalms 21. And the reason why I mention this here, because this is just going to lay down to that if you stand for Yahuwah, which you should already have a good idea of what we're trying to look at. Psalms 21 and 8 is cool. These people going to be mad with you. I know Lil Muffin told me, she was talking to our cousin, and our cousin asked about an individual who we was close to at one time, and she told him, hey, her pastor hates him. So my cousin was like, what? You know what I'm saying? And Muffin was like, everybody hates my brother. You know what I'm saying? And whether they do or whether they don't, that's neither here nor there. I don't really care. But the point of the matter is, what will people hate you for? And they'll hate you for standing for what's right. You know what I'm saying? Or they'll hate you for saying what's right. Irregardless of like this, that, there, and the third. Because at the end of the day, we know Amos tell you that they hate him that rebuke in the gate. People hate certain things. You know what I'm saying? Usually people hate certain things because they want to emulate it and they feel like that they can't. Sometimes people hate you just for what you stand for. Sometimes people hate you just for you. But nevertheless, if you really stand for the word, live it, speak it, obey it, trust it, magnify it through your heart inwardly to an outward representation of righteousness, of faith, people will despise you. They will despise you, which is one of the reasons why I believe that not necessarily of despising, but that why a lot of my peers, I don't want to be around this nigga. You know, the book told you that. He say, blessed are when men separate you from their company. That's a blessing when people separate themselves from your company. That is a blessing. This is what Hamashiach said. Blessed are when men separate you from their company. That means you standing for what's right and you steadfast in the faith to the point where these people don't want to be around you anymore. You haven't done anything to these people. They just don't like for what you about and what you stand for. I have no desire to be in your company. That's not a negative thing. It may seem negative like that because of the ties that we have to people. You don't necessarily want to stop dealing with them or deal with the fact I'm not going to talk to you again or I'm not going to see you again. And I'm not going to tell you personally for myself that was an easy thing to deal with. Like, dang, boy. It's not going, I can't kick it with her like I used to kick it when we was young. I can't kick it with him like you know what I'm saying? It's not the same. I seen somebody that I came up with, used to kick it with, run with a few weeks back. Me and her used to be real cool. It was very awkward conversation. The whole thing, because nigga knowing it's not the same. It's not the same. Because she know what type of time a nigga on. It's not the same. So these people don't even feel like, what can I talk to them about? I don't really want to hang with this person or sit down and talk with this person. They think you an alien. When in actuality, according to Peter, we are strangers and aliens and pilgrims upon the earth. But nevertheless, what I wanted, man. I can't remember where I was going. Psalms 21, that's where I'm at. 21 and 8. Thy hand shall find out all thy enemies. Thy right hand shall find out those that hate thee. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thy anger. And Yahuwah shall swallow them up in his wrath, and fire shall devour them. Their fruit shalt thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. This man telling you, he gonna kill all these people. For they intended evil against thee. I want y'all to keep that in mind when he say the fruit that they're gonna destroy off the earth and their seed from the children of men. For they intended evil against thee, and they imagined a mischievous device of which they are not able to perform. He said they were not able to perform this plan. We know what the plan is. Let's just not even no longer delay what it is, and let's look what it is. But let's first look at, he say that they got venom or rage in their tongue. Luke 11. Luke 11 and 47. Luke 11 and 47. And after that, John chapter 13. I just, like I said, we done dealt with something along these lines before. I don't want y'all to have no fear of losing your life for the word. Please don't have no fear of that. Don't fear that. Don't fear what man can do to you. The master already told you that once they kill you, there ain't nothing else they can do. They can't resuscitate you and make you alive again and kill you again. You ain't gonna do nothing but rest with Alahym for that till that time. You know, I'll wait. I'll just wait. Woe unto you, this is Luke 11:47. Woe unto you, for you build the sepulchres of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. Now, you know, we could pull many places of that, and I think that we shall let's do that. Jeremiah chapter 11. Because they intended evil against thee. And let's sit back and look at some of the evil that they intended against a man to kill him, before we look at the evil that they intended against the man to kill him. And to understand that if these things befall the prophets and righteous men who came before you, and they befell the man whom you claim as your Savior and your Master, then do not be shocked if these things befall you. And you need to have your heart primed and ready for that. Because you don't never know when you're going to leave here, man. Tomorrow ain't promised. Make sure your soul right. That's all. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you make sound decisions according to the word, not according to your emotions, not according to your flesh. Your flesh will steer you wrong every single solitary time. The flesh has a 0 accuracy rate as far as leading you to make a correct decision in righteousness. A 0 accuracy rate. He is 0 for 1,000, 0 for infinity. Your flesh will never lead you to make a decision that is correct according to righteousness and Kadesh, not once. And you have to pay attention to people who cater to your flesh, who cater to your desires. This is why the master rebuked Peter in the fashion that he did. Because these people are snares and traps. Snares and traps. And you can't get caught up in no snare and no trap. Don't get caught up in it. It just ain't worth it. Jeremiah 11 and 18. Yahuwah have given me knowledge of it, and I know it. Thou showed me their doings. Listen to what he said. But I was like a lamb or an ox that is brought to the slaughter, and I knew not that they had devised devices against me, saying, let us destroy the tree with the fruit thereof. Listen what he said. Let us destroy the tree with the fruit thereof. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his name may be no more remembered. But O Yahuwah of hosts, that judge righteously, that try the reins and the heart, let me see thy vengeance on them, for unto thee have I revealed my cause. Therefore thus saith Yahuwah of the men of Antoth, that seek thy life, saying prophecy not in the name of Yahuwah, that thou die not by our hand. Therefore thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, behold, I will punish them. The young man shall die by the sword, their sons and their daughters shall die by famine, and there shall be no remedy of them, for I will bring evil upon the men of Antoth, even the year of their visitation. And notice that he said that they wanted to destroy the tree with the fruit. Destroy the tree with the fruit. Now we know, we don't have to necessarily read all that. John chapter 15, we know the master said, I am the vine, and ye are the branches. Abide in me, and I in you, and you shall bring forth much fruit. These people had an intent that they wanted to destroy him and his offspring, or things that he produced. Now let's look at something in John chapter 16 and 1 first. Let's take that track first. Because we know what's the fruit of Alahym. They want to destroy the joy of Alahym. You should know from Nehemiah 8 and 10, if my memory serves me correctly, that the joy of Yahuwah is your strength. They want to destroy that from you. You want to sit back and know that they want to destroy the meekness. They want to destroy the long suffering. They want to destroy the gentleness. They want to destroy the goodness. But most importantly, they want to destroy the faith of Alahym, and they want to destroy the love of Alahym. And these are how these people are snares and traps unto us, because that's what they seek to do. Anyone who you notice that he said that he is led like an ox or a lamb to the slaughter. Because he told you in the book of Isaiah that he that turned from ungodliness maketh himself a prey. You leave yourself open unto attack. People want to do things unto you when you no longer go along. I got some. Just be patient. I got all that type of stuff with me, man. And this is where the devices come at to where these people want to do something to you. But you have to understand that the council won't stand because of what your latter end is going to be. And because of that, they were not able to complete their task. Because what it's going to look like, it's going to look like they can't complete their task against Yahusha. If you're an idiot, they completed the task. Oh, they did complete the task against us. If you're an idiot, they completed the task. Because you just looking at, people like to look at things in an incomplete situation. You didn't finish your math project. You didn't finish all your homework. Your teacher gave it back, gave you incomplete. Because you didn't look at it from the totality of the situation, so you missed it. You know what I'm saying? That's why that's a whole nother matter. I'm not going to speak on that. John 16 and 1. Yeah, I'm not going to speak on that. These things have I spoken unto you, that you should not be offended. Remember what we talked about in regards to Baruch is he that is not offended in him. We talked about that not too recently. Let's look at offended on this one in the Greek. Same word. Something that will not be a stumbling block, or something that will not cause you to desert him who you trust and obey. Because that's what our problem is. The right person, the right situation, right circumstance, right desire, we desert him whom we claim to trust and obey. Now he said, I'm telling you these things that you will not desert me. You got to think about that. Will the devices and machinations and imaginations and thoughts and intents of wicked men, will it cause you to desert Yahuwah? Will it cause you to flee from him? Or will you stand steadfast in those afflictions, resisting the adversary in the faith, that you might be exalted in due time, because you humbled yourself unto the word? The book say that Hamashiach humbled himself even unto death, the death of the stake, that Yahuwah might exalt him and give him a name above all names, that every tongue should confess and every knee should bow. Weigh that and consider that with yourself. You have not resisted against sin unto blood. So you ain't got no business fainting, getting weary, falling out, none of that. That means you weaken the brain. But don't sit back and look and think that if you're strong, but then you still capitulate to other people. Because then in that aspect, you're only strong situationally. You have to be strong consistently across the board in every situation and circumstance. No matter who the individual person is, you have to be able to look at them in the face and say, as forth as this house, meaning your natural tabernacle, we will serve Yahuwah. Which means that will preclude me from participating in whatever said activity that has been proposed to me at the present time. I will not be able to attend. I will not be a participant in this. And that's when your faith and fortitude is set to where you say, I'm ready to be a lamb or ox to the slaughter, that I'm willing to face all level of anger and indignation and wrath for my love and faith and trust in the living Alahym. And that's what we have to be at. Because screw who it is. Screw what's going on. It's a lot of stuff that I done seen like, yeah, but I want to do that. And then be like, oh, man, not going to be able to do it. Oh, well. That means it wasn't meant for me to do. And whatever could be derived from it was not something that I was supposed to attain. That's what you're supposed to sit back and look. We don't even sit back and look at the stuff that y'all keep you from is for your benefit. The people that y'all keep you from is for your benefit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff he keep you from is to save your soul. People who if he don't care about going to hell, he let them be mired with whoever, whatever, whenever, nigga, live it up. I don't fool with you no way. Of course, none of us want to believe that y'all get to a point where he be like, I don't fool with you no way. But he could get that way. And it's because you don't fool with him. Continuing on. I'll read verse 2 again. Verse 1 again. These things have I spoken unto you, that you should not be offended, that they shall put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time come that whosoever kill you will think that he do Alahym service. And these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me. This man say somebody is going to come and kill you and think they doing Alahym service. They think they performing his will at this particular time. These evil and violent men that we read about with Psalms 140 and Psalm 21, they thinking they pleasing Alahym with the stuff that they doing. We don't want to get caught up with the fact of, and just using this as a point of reference. He's saying that these people are going to kill the apostles and think they doing Yah service. So they're committing an act that's contrary to the righteousness of Alahym and think it's pleasing to Alahym. And we need to consider that if we are not doing that, if we're doing things that we think are pleasing to Alahym, but they're not, we think we're doing him service, but you're not. But you're not. You got to consider that, and you got to weigh that, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're actually doing him service. Don't get yourself caught out on the outside looking in and get killed. And for what? For a temporary pleasure, for temporary companionship or camaraderie or temporary status or elation or whatever the case may be. That stuff is temporary. The book say we don't seek the things that are temporal, but the things that are eternal. That's what we after. Eternity. Not temporary. Not temporary. This is how a lot of people who claim to be in the truth, claim to be in the faith, choose sinful people to mate with or to be friends with. I still be disgusted at the fact when I see people, oh, these being in the truth ain't right. That's why we got to go get people outside the truth. Oh, these women in the truth ain't right. That's why we got to get people outside of it. No, nigga, you not right. That's why you have a desire to go pick that. Because if you had a desire to Alahym, that wouldn't even be a thought process in your mind. You would just abide serving Alahym. Just like Paul wrote, he say, he that is unmarried seeketh how he can please Yahuwah. Say a virgin seeketh how she can remain Kadesh in body and spirit and serve Yahuwah. Not I want a husband, so I'm going to go get a sinner. Not because I want a wife, so I'm going to go get a sinner. That means you're not in this for Yahuwah. You in this for yourself. And you just told on yourself based off your own mouth and your own works. So you mean to tell me that if you had to be 80 years old with no husband, you wouldn't do it as long as you got Yahuwah? You tell me that's what you're concerned with? No, you just want to, some of these niggas just want to tickle in their pickles. Some of these women just hot between their legs. And that's what you're doing it for. You're not doing it because you love him. You're not doing it because you believe in him. You're doing it because you want something from him. And when he don't give you what you want, you're going to go get it on your own volition. Just like your idiotic forefathers in the wilderness. And you've seen what happened to them. You've seen what he said about them. These are children in whom have no faith. A froward generation. A perverse and corrupt people. Twisting and perverting my righteousness for their own selfish gain and desires. But nobody wants to look at that because that will make us uncomfortable. Nevertheless, he said they'll kill you. Let's go to Luke 12 and see what he said. I mentioned it already. And let's sit back and look at it. How he said they're going to plot and plan on you. You should already know it. 12 and 4. Because I'm just speaking. I ain't talking about none of y'all. I'm telling you this stuff I see regularly. I done seen niggas say, I went and got a wife outside the truth because these women in the truth won't submit. I went and got a husband because these men in the truth won't do this or they this, that, there, and the third. No, nigga, that's you. You went and got what you were attracted to. You weren't attracted to righteousness. That's why you went and picked something contrary to it. Because if you was, there would be nowhere in the world that would even hold your interest. Wouldn't even pique your interest. You wouldn't even turn your head. Get your wicked butt out my face, nigga. What am I do with you? Love you to salvation? That sounds stupid. I'm straight, cuz. Go serve y'all, and if he clean you up, I'll be where I be. Not finna join myself to that. Say, what concord have Mashiach? I ain't got no fellowship with you, nigga. You're worthless in the eyesight of my Alahym. This is not just. Our law tell us not to marry no sinner. That's dumb. That is dumb. Not only did he tell you not to get your children to him, he told you don't make no covenant with him. Don't even be in that close, intimate contact with him because they're going to corrupt you. That's all he was concerned about, was to keep you from corruption. It's no different than your parents told you about. Don't hang with them. That boy, they ain't right. They just trying to protect you. Has nothing to do with the person. It's not saying that you're inherently saying that this person is this, that, there, and the third. They just have a bad mind and they make bad choices, which means they put themselves in negative situations and circumstances. I'm trying to protect you from you making that same bad choice by being influenced by their choices. That's it. That's all. That's how you know Yahuwah is a true parent. I don't see how any of you who have children can't see that's what he was doing. Because he lays that out in the law quite plainly and quite clearly. He's just trying to protect you. Don't you protect that which you love? Won't you protect who you love from people you know that don't mean them any good? Whether it's intentional or unintentional on that person's part? Because some people don't mean you no good, but they're not trying to hurt you intentionally. They just don't know no better. They ain't been taught no better. They ain't been shown no better. So they don't really mean no harm. The ones who mean harm are the bad ones, the worst ones. But he want to protect you from them nevertheless, because he doesn't want you to be corrupted by their devices and plans that they put together on a daily basis. He wanted to shield you from that and keep you from that. But you know how human beings is. Tell them not to fool with something, they want to fool with it even the more because they intrigued by what is it about it, why he don't want me to mess with it. Instead of just heeding the warning, you want to find out why. Till you're dead or you're in a jailhouse, now you found out why. And then you're sitting back, I wish I would have listened. You know you's a stupid nigga when you say you wish you should have listened. Whatever that word, I wish I would. If when it's something that was dangerous to you, and then you got yourself in a bad situation. Because everybody in life, then somebody done told them something like, yeah, man, I wish I'd have listened to that nigga on that one now. But you know, we'll chalk it up and we'll learn from it. It's another thing when somebody give you a warning. Don't do this because this is what's going to happen. And then you go do that. And then you see that's what happened. And then you come back and say, you know exactly what you said was going to happen. It happened. That means you dumb because you wanted to find out for yourself. Sometimes you ain't got to find out for yourself if somebody done already went through it for you. You ain't got to go find out. You ain't got to learn it the hard way. Learn from their experience. Learn from their experience to see this is what not to do. This is what not. And that's all that's in the word is examples of what not to do. There's more examples of what not to do than it is what to do. Because it was more people doing what you weren't supposed to do than it was of people who were doing what you're supposed to do. 12 and 4. And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that they have no more that they can do. But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear. Fear him which after he have killed have power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him. Now let's swing back to Luke 11 and 46 because we right by it. And let's 47 and let's go from there. Because he said he was aware of their devices. Jeremiah 11 is what I'm referencing. Or what they were going to do to him. The same thing we see in Psalms 140 because we got too many examples and I got to swing to another example of imagination or thoughts before we lay this particular topic to bed, unless you who are willing. He put it on my mind to continue on with it. And he said, woe unto you also, verse 47. Woe unto you, for you build the sepulchres of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. Truly you bear witness that you allow the deeds of your fathers, for they indeed killed them, and you build their sepulchres. Therefore also said the wisdom of Alahym, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they shall slay and persecute, that the blood of all the prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation. From the blood of Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, which perished between the altar and the temple. Truly I say unto you, it shall be required of this generation. Woe unto you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You entered not in yourselves, and them that were entering in ye hindered. And as he said these things unto them, the scribes and Pharisees began to urge him vehemently, and to provoke him to speak of many things, laying wait for him, seeking to catch something out of his mouth, that they may accuse him. See, they were doing all of this because of their anger, and their pride, and we can read other places in the Gospels of them doing these things. The venom and the vitriol that they spewed at this man on a continual basis, all because he said things that were right. People don't like you when you stand for what's right. They just don't. And it isn't even, and no matter what the case may be, even if we was to just take it in a natural sense and just remove Yahuwah from the equation. People don't like for you to stand up for what's just and what's equitable and what's just plain flat out right. It makes them uncomfortable. And therefore that uncomfortable turns to anger and rage, and they want to perpetrate that rage upon the focus of their anger, which is the individual who's causing them to become uncomfortable. So when we bring Yahuwah back into the equation, as rightfully as we should, we begin to see that when he sent people to bear witness of what was right from his mouth or from his word, they began to be enraged. And they wanted to execute and perpetrate that rage upon the focus of that rage, which was the individual who was speaking the words. But they couldn't focus that rage on who was it really, which was Yahuwah, who they were really mad with. Because at the end of the day, if you speak the word or you stand for the word, they're not mad with you. They hate your God. I don't know how y'all can't see that. I don't see how y'all can't understand that. They don't hate you. He that despiseth not man but Alahym. That's who they hate. You got to be wise enough to understand and know that. That's who they hate. They hate Yah. And you just an emissary, an ambassador, a representative of him. And that's whether you male or female. Because you ain't got to preach the word to be a representative or ambassador of Yahuwah. The proclamation of your faith in your day-to-day life with perfect and flawless execution is a good enough ambassadorship in and of itself. And that's who they hate. And they can't take out that anger and that wrath out on him. So they do it to you. And he gonna come see them about that. You have to understand that. And that's where the devices come in at. Because they want to kill Yah. Why you think they killed Yah? They just didn't hate Yahushua. They hated Yahuwah. Can't kill Yahuwah, so we'll kill him. He saying he ain't Yahuwah. Look at Korah. He didn't hate Moses. He hated Yah. His pride also the fact because he wanted to be the man. You know what I'm saying? That's why Absalom wanted to kill David, to steal the hearts of the people. Because he wanted his pride. So he put together the wicked device to kill his own daddy. All these wicked devices and plans and purposes always are born from a selfish motivation. They always come from a selfish motivation. Absalom's selfish motivation was to be king. You know what I'm saying? Who did I just mention? His name escaped me already. Korah's selfish motivation was to be seen as a leader amongst the people. He wanted to be known and recognized that he was a leader. So therefore he wanted to overthrow Moses. Saul's evil devices and plots and plans came from envy and jealousy of the love that David received, that he felt like he wasn't received. He didn't care nothing about David. He could say, oh, he gonna take the throne. He didn't care nothing about that man taking the throne. He wanted people to love him and speak well of him the same way. And he was envious of that. They don't love me like they love him. Began to put together a device to kill a man. That goes right back to what he told you in Mark chapter 7. It's not what goes into your body that defiles you, it's what come out. It's the things that's in your heart. So then you have to look at, why do you have envy and jealousy in your heart? Why do you have pride in your heart? Why do you have that lust and desire in your heart? Why is it there? When you can recognize why it's there, then you can begin the process of getting rid of it. Because usually why it's there is because there's an insecurity in you that you haven't dealt with, or you haven't recognized, or that you, because if you can recognize it, then you can control that insecurity. You know what I'm saying? If you don't recognize that it's there and why it's there, then you can't control it. Therefore, it will control you, because you'll continue to make decisions and according to that insecurity or whatever void that it is that you're trying to fill. I didn't feel the need to fill a void of having sex with endless women because my mom and my auntie loved me. So I didn't feel the need to have to do that because I didn't have that hole in me to feel like I need to lay with endless women to get some manner of love or attention that I didn't get in my childhood because my mom and my auntie, they loved me. So I didn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? I understood that my sister daddy is not there. Though I may only be 10 years old, I know that I must be there to love my sister and do this and to do that, so she wouldn't feel the need to have to go out here and seek for the love of a man because she felt like she didn't have one because her daddy wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? I think y'all that I was able to understand that at a very, very young age, because I know it's a lot of women, they got daddy issues, and that's why they end up having a high body count. Because it's not necessarily that they just like having sex, though some of them do. But they just looking for a man to love them. So they going from person to person till they find somebody who gonna love them because they don't love themselves. Because they got an issue within themselves. And they're not dealing with that issue within themselves. And they're seeking something externally to deal with something internally. When if they deal with that which is internal, then everything else will fall into place. So you have to look at it, the things that you feel are issues and hang-ups and the lust and desire that you have. Why do you have them? Some things are just natural because some things you just want to experience in life. And you have a desire to experience life in certain capacities. You know what I'm saying? It's just understandable. Just make sure that those desires don't pull you outside of his will. You know what I'm saying? If it don't take you outside of his will, live your life. You know, do the things you want to do, but don't compromise the word to do them. Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Definitely don't do that. Because Yahuwah got to come first. He got to come first. You were not created for nothing other than his esteem. That's all you were made for. Here's the whole conclusion of the matter. Fear Alahym and keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of man. That's your whole job. That's your whole labor. Respect your Alahym and do what he say. You have no other purpose than that. Nevertheless, let's deal with this next thing. John chapter 13. Crank it up a notch. I'll hit this other topic of dealing with the imagination of your heart, because this is a very extensive matter. And it's just the plans and purposes. All we got to do is just change our heart. That's really all we got to do. It's just that simple. It's no deeper than that. I promise it's not. It's no deeper than that. All we got to do is just change our hearts. John 13:1. We change our hearts, our actions will change along with them. I was going to pull 1 Peter chapter 2. Let me go ahead and pull it now. It's actually 1 Peter chapter 4. In regards to these feast days that they call Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the other stuff that people have going on. You know what I'm saying? 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 1. And it's just a changing of your heart. You have to change that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some of the things that people have is they just lustful for certain things and they just have a pleasure for certain activities, and you have to discipline yourself. You have to discipline yourself. You have to relinquish self. Self is the problem. When you begin to look at Alahym versus self, you can become Alahym. The objective is to become Alahym. Not just to hear the word and recite back answers when I ask questions. Not to be able just to tell people certain stuff, but to become him. Literally. That is the goal and objective. You know what I'm saying? And the goal or objective after that, well, the goal and objective is to, like I say, to become Alahym and then to cleave to those who are of Alahym. That way, just like the book say that one's afflicted, people could pray for them, and then you moving as a cohesive unit in Mashiach. But it's hard in these days and times because it's not that many people who own that. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at the fact that it's not that many people that's own that, people begin to get pulled this, that, there, and the third because I say because y'all young is different. You know what I'm saying? I'm almost 40, so I don't really care anymore. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't really matter. You know, shoot, got through my 20s, got out of the, you know what I'm saying? Shoot, alive at that. Didn't catch a long prison sentence. You know what I'm saying? Get out. I'm almost 30. Started dealing with the word after that. So you talking about that time frame of 15 to 24? If it didn't get done then, it's not going to get done. You know what I'm saying? Screw it. We was out here doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that. At the end of the day, this man saved my life alive because I could be dead or I could be in a cell right now, sleep. Or in there reading a book, thinking about when I'm going to get out. But instead, by the favor of the living Alahym, by way of his son, I'm free naturally and spiritually to serve him and to seek his face, that if he see fit, he find me worthy enough to enter into his kingdom to dwell with him forever. So for me, nothing else matters because I know I could be dead. See, none of y'all ain't most of y'all ain't been in those situations and circumstances where you know that you were dealing with something where you literally could have been dead, or you literally could have had your freedom, and I can't even say taken from you because you gave it away for an extended period of time. So when you get put in a situation and you look back, you don't care about who gets lost or what gets lost. Because you know what you came from and what you were involved with. I may not even supposed to be here. Because it's niggas who a nigga hustled with that are not here. You know what I'm saying? It's niggas that a nigga trapped with that are not here. Whether they dead or whether they in prison for a long period of time. Right now I'm just thinking about my nigga Kenzo. That's who in my head. This nigga's dead. That nigga died at like 22. Nigga caught him at the store, blew his brains out. You know what I'm saying? Last time I seen this nigga, we were both in the county jail. He was finishing up a county bid, and I was finna get ready to go to prison. And I come home, and the nigga tell me, oh, that nigga dead. You know what I'm saying? Nigga like, dang. That was crazy to me when I came home, and I'm like, well, what this nigga at? Oh, that nigga's dead. Well, what is nigga? That nigga's dead. And the time period I was in prison, niggas was dropping in this city like flies. You know what I'm saying? From like 2005 to 2008, niggas was getting murdered here at a very, very high clip. And who to say if I wasn't out here on these streets that I wouldn't have got killed, or y'all forbid would have had to kill somebody else to protect my own life. You know what I'm saying? So when I think about that, I don't care. I don't care about what had to be lost, because I literally could be dead. My nigga Corey, dead. You know what I'm saying? Nigga caught my nigga in the spot and blew his brains out and left this nigga. I remember right before I went to prison, a nigga I used to kick it with on a day-to-day basis around there in my building, nigga walked up to this nigga spot and blew this nigga brains out and took nothing. This man had an eighth of a key of coke, a few $1,000s in his pocket, you know what I'm talking about? And the nigga didn't take nothing but his life. Nothing but his life. Walked right up to him, killed him, and left. You know what I'm saying? Nigga like, dang, I just seen this nigga yesterday. Now this nigga's dead. And guess what you finna go do? Sell some crack in the building right above his. While the Crime Stopper sign is right there in front of his apartment where this man lost his life at. And guess what you gonna do? The game don't stop. And that easily can be you. So when you see that, when you comfortable, you don't care about that, all that other stuff. I don't care about losing no friends, nigga. I don't care about losing no friends and family, knowing that I could be in a box. You know what I'm saying? Most of y'all, when I was y'all age, the age that y'all was just chilling, y'all in college. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. So that reality don't hit you, that shoot, nigga, you could be dead. So when you know that, then you know that Yahuwah got you alive for a purpose to save your soul. You're not going to relinquish it. You're going to hold it steadfast. I don't know what some situations and circumstances some of y'all done been in that may have caused you to understand and respect the fact that you're a mortal being. But if you have had those situations and circumstances, then you better relish the fact that you are still alive and hold fast to Yahuwah's word and stand on it and don't relinquish it in no shape, form, or fashion for anyone, not even yourself. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 1. For as much then as Mashiach hath suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he should no longer live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of Alahym. For the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lasciviousness, lust, excess of wine, revilings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries, wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of riot, speaking evil of you. And see, that's what ends up happening. And I think that's what some of y'all be worried about, is that if these people going to speak evil of you because you're not going to run to go do the same things that you used to do with them. But he said you used to work the will of the Gentiles. He said, but now you've let that go. So you have to sit back and look at, I have to let that go. Because I no longer will live the rest of my time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of Alahym. That's where my plan and device is going to go. My plan and device and purpose is not going to be to live for men, but to live for Alahym. And that's the point that's trying to be imparted to each and every one of us, myself included. Nobody's exempt. You know what I'm saying? But that's how we're supposed to live. I said, I've got too many situations in my brain where I know I could be dead. You know what I'm saying? And some of them ain't had nothing to do with no violence. Right now I'm thinking about the time I sat back and watched my homeboy get shot right in front of my face. And the nigga went to go shoot the nigga again and the gun jam. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here tripping and I'm like, man, you finna witness a man's murder. Literally. Because this nigga was trying to kill this man. You know what I'm saying? He shot this nigga in the shoulder. He went to shoot him again and the gun jam. And I'm sitting here watching this nigga do like this here 3-4 times, pulling that trigger to kill this man. And I can remember when the police came to attend to him and they asked him who shot him, he wouldn't say nothing. And the Miss Cracker told him, if you don't tell me who shot you, we're not going to give you any medical attention. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, this man's sitting here bleeding and you going to tell him you ain't going to help him? If he don't tell you who shot him? I said, boy, that cracker ain't about nothing. He ain't tell him though. I tell you that. Cause I know who shot him, and I definitely wasn't around to tell the police nothing. Wasn't gonna tell him nothing. I think I was like 19 at the time. You know what I'm saying? I had known this nigga since I was like 13, 14 years old. He tried to kill him, and it was about nothing. And it was about nothing. And I know niggas who probably done seen it. That's the only time I actually seen somebody about to be murdered. And actually watch somebody get shot. You know what I'm saying? I can't even imagine what it's like for niggas who seen somebody die. Who seen somebody get shot. And when you got that type of stuff ingrained in your brain, your outlook on life is different. It's different. I can remember one time we were young. No. Standing outside. I think I was probably about 16. And matter of fact, the nigga who I'm referencing, he's dead. He died of a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? And he just died. He died this year. That nigga was outside talking crazy. Called himself throwing up gang sign, being funny. Nigga pulled right up on her, rolled the window down, stuck a shotgun out the window. Nigga like, dang. You know what I'm saying? Because he trying to be funny, and this, that, then the third. These niggas ready to kill something. We were right down Spring Park Road, Candlelight Apartments, man. Nigga rolled right up on her, pulled that shotgun out the window. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, man. Make you look at life totally different when you see that type of stuff. Or when my homeboy got killed, I think we were about 15, 16, trying to break up a fight. A nigga trying to shoot somebody else and they shot him. Or another nigga I grew up with, nigga, we ain't but 20-something years old, nigga got killed at a dice game. Nigga came to rob a dice game and killed him. You know what I'm saying? Make you look at life different when you see that type of stuff, man. You'll hold faster, you move real fast knowing that that could have been you. We got niggas we grew up with died from car accidents. You know what I'm saying? Some people who died from health problems. You know what I'm saying? Ain't even got out our 20s. That could have been me. What's the difference with them dying and me dying? Other than you who are having mercy. That's it. Now they done left here and they have no chance of salvation. And since I said that, Ecclesiastes chapter 9 before we get to John 13. They ain't got no chance of salvation. It's over with for them. So while we above ground and breathing and you got a chance for it, get your mind in line with it. Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. To get you, that's all it is. I just implore a man to save his soul. I just implore a woman to save their soul. That's it. You can do as you please and you can do as you wish. I just pray you, what do you say? I put before you life and death, blessings and curses, therefore choose life. Make that choice. Don't choose death. Don't choose people who are into death. Choose people who gonna push you towards life. You know what I'm saying? Period. If ain't nobody can benefit you spiritually, what are you around them for? Or I'm talking about on a continual basis. I ain't talking about a one-off. I see you every now and then. I'm talking about on a regular basis. What you around them for? Why are you in situations that can't benefit you spiritually? Why are you partaking in that? Why are you participating in that? Why are you planning and devising to doing things that are not beneficial to you spiritually? Why are you doing that? Doesn't make any sense. Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. Whatsoever thy hand find to do, do it with thy might. Listen what I tell you. Whatsoever thy hand find to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou go. And I return this all under the sun, that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet the bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill. But time and chance happen to them all. For a man also know not his time, as the fishes that are in an evil net, as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of man snared in the evil time, when it fall suddenly upon them. Whatever you seek to do, he told you ain't no plans in the grave, people. There's no knowledge in the grave. There's no work and no wisdom in the grave. None of that's in the grave. He said, just this man just told you that even as the fish don't know, as a man don't know his time, as a fish taken in an evil net, as birds caught in a snare. So don't get yourself trapped in an evil time because you weren't paying attention. But he said, if you're going to do something, do it with all your strength. If you're going to serve Yahuwah, serve him with everything you got. Every ounce of strength, ability, power, fortitude, desire, passion, obedience that you got in you. Do it with all your strength. Because once you hit that grave, it's over with. It is over with. Ain't no more plans in the grave. Ain't no plans in the grave. Ain't no repentance in the grave either. John chapter 13. That nigga got a strong bladder, huh?
Weak bladder.
I say strong because that nigga steady urinating. 13-1.
Fall to the room.
Now, before the feast of Passover, when Yahushua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them to the end. And the supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. Now the adversary has become a snare and a trap to Judas. And he's put it in his heart to have that burning rage and anger and displeasure and indignation that he would betray this man, to put together the plots of the violent man to take him down, as we've seen in Jeremiah 11 and we see in Psalms 140. And we also look at the craftiness of the wise and how he will destroy that, and to take the counsel of the froward and to cast it headlong, or to throw it down, because these perverse people are trying to twist things to put together a plan to kill a man. John 11:48. John 11:47. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man do many miracles. And if we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caphaeus, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, you know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of Alahym that were scattered abroad. Then from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death. So now we begin to see what we saw in Jeremiah 11 and what we saw in Psalms 140. And I'm not going to be able to hit every other spot that I wanted. But he said, look how he said they gathered themselves together for war. They were imagining mischief in their heart. And now they're going to begin to sharpen their tongues like a serpent, which we see Hashatan entering into Judas for that purpose. And now that that he was asking Yahuwah to preserve him from the wicked man who seek to overthrow his goings. We also seen in Psalm 21 how he stated that they wanted to make his name not be in remembrance, but to blot it out. My apologies, that's Jeremiah chapter 11, where he stated that. He wanted to blot his name out and to cut off the fruit in his tree. And like I said, they wanted to cut off from, when we look at a Mashiach, right, and I have to speed it up, you could go to Ephesians 5, and I'm just going to have to reference examples for it, because we don't have a lot of time to do that. When we look at the love of the fruit that they wanted to cut off from Yahushua, the love of Alahym, he said, if no man had came and if I wouldn't have came and did the works that no other man did, they would have not had sin. He said, but now they have no cloak for their sin. And now they see me and hate both me and my Father. There's a reason why Hamashiach said this, because they hate me, but they really hate my Father. He said they hate me without a cause. So they wanted to destroy the vine and the fruit that vine was producing, or that tree was producing, and that fruit was love for Alahym. Because see, I'm going to tell y'all something. Like I told y'all before, everybody scream, we got to love, we got to love. You can't love nobody, you don't love Yahuwah. See, we don't love Yahuwah, but you want to try to love somebody else first in the name of Yahuwah, you don't even love him. You got to love him before you can love somebody else. You don't love him, everything you set your hand to do will be a failure. Until you realize that you got to love him first. So they wanted to destroy that. Then they wanted to destroy the joy of Alahym. When we say the joy of Alahym, the joy of when this man healed people. Whether it was the blind man who he healed in John chapter 9, they wanted to try to destroy the joy of that fruit that was produced of this man who once could not see, but now he can see. They wanted to destroy that. Or the woman who he healed of the issue of blood, the joy that came from that, they wanted to destroy that. This is the perversity of this here. When they seen this man healing people, they try to perverse and twist the scripts and say, you can't no healing on the Sabbath day. What? Are you serious, nigga? Then you gotta sit back and look at what's the next thing. The shalom Alahym they wanted to destroy. Or the long suffering. The long suffering intent of bringing that woman who they had caught in adultery. Because the long suffering is the patience of Alahym while one is in their folly. And they wanted to destroy that fruit by getting this man to condemn her. Man, we know how the master handled that. And they also wanted to destroy the humility of Alahym and the faith of Alahym and the temperance. The temperance coming in of how they tried to tempt the man with the example of, should we give money to Caesar? Whose superscription is on that corner? What a Mashiach said back to him. They wanted him to lose his self-control. Or what we read in Luke 11, where they were trying to vehemently get him to say certain things out of his mouth that they had might right to accuse him. They was trying to get him to lose his self-control. This is what they were trying to do when they talking about destroying that fruit. Or just another example or process of looking at it. So the reason why I'm stating all this is you have to look at that, considering that we see that the word savor in Matthew 16 when the master is speaking to Peter, when Peter was rebuking him about that he shouldn't die, is I have all these people who are contrary. Because guess what? All them scribes and Pharisees and all the people around them, they claimed that Yahuwah was their Alahym and they were servants of Alahym. Yet they were seeking to set snares and traps for the righteous to take them down, because they really savored the things that were a man and not an Alahym. Now, whether a person professes to serve Yahuwah or they profess not, you have to be aware that if they are contrary in any shape, form, or fashion, that they can be a snare and a trap for your destruction. What you're really supposed to examine is examining this. If you know somebody don't serve Yahuwah, you already know they savor the things that be a man and not an Alahym. But now when you turn around and you look at those who say they are servants of the living Alahym, you're supposed to sit back and pay attention. What does this person hold valuable to them? Do they hold valuable the things that are a man or the things that are of Alahym? And if once you peep that that person saves or savor the things of man, then you can be able to rightfully and justly ascertain what the intents, devices of their heart is going to be. Because they're manifesting that through their actions. Because they would be manifesting it through the works of the flesh, which are above, the adultery, the fornication, the uncleanness, the lasciviousness, the idolatry, the witchcraft, the hatred, the variance, the emulations, the wrath, the strifes, and the sedations, and heresies, and envyings, and murders, drunkings, and revilings. I don't know if any of y'all know what reviling is. I guess it's only coming to my mind right now because I just heard some brothers talking about this the other day, as it pertains to Yahusha. Specifically when it comes to that, because a lot of people revile people all the time, and and rail on people also. But the word reviling is basically somebody who here it says reviling. My apologies. That is a drunken party or rioting. I'm thinking about railing. I don't think it's on this one here, but railing is slandering somebody's name. See, sometimes people taking somebody is railing on them, but they told the truth. See, if they told the truth, that's not railing. If you actually said or did something, then no one slandered your name. You actually did that. You know what I'm saying? You actually said that. So that's not slander. Slander is someone said something about you, that you did something, and you did not do that. Or you said something and you did not say that. Because if you did it, then you can't be upset about that. If somebody pointed that out. You did it, you did it. Take accountability for what you did and move on. But people who hate Alahym will consistently and constantly exhibit those particular traits. They will exhibit the things that are contrary to that, because men savor being envious. Men savor being a drunken partier. Men savor murdering. Men savor lying. Men savor lust. Men savor these things. They desire them. They partake in them. And this is somebody, they don't want the things of Alahym. Because you can make your mouth fry fish. Do you know what I'm saying? You can talk till you blue in the face. You can say whatever you want. But it's by your fruits that you're going to be known. So if you continually produce bad fruit, you continually produce fruit that manifests that you are unkadesh, unfaithful, unbelieving, and a hater of Alahym, then what is a person supposed to ascertain? Because you want to believe that you are serving Alahym, so you don't want nobody to say anything different? That's your pride talking. We must remove ourselves from devising these devices that are contrary to the word, and devise devices that are in line with his perfect will, that you may be made perfect at the last day. That's all you need to be concerned with. Nevertheless, Matthew chapter 26. I don't think I have there. We're not going to be able to use that. We're just going to move around and look at the plan. As we could see from John 11, they were seeking to cut his name off from remembrance. They didn't want you to remember the name of Yahusha. They wanted to cut that off. And they put together the plot and the plan to take him out. And it came to pass when 26:1, my apologies. And it came to pass when Yahusha had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, you know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. Then assembled together the chief priests and scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted that they might take Yahusha by subtlety and kill him. And it takes you back. That's why we came here for that, because of the word usage of subtlety. Because that takes us back to Hashatan in the garden. He wanted to kill this man. He wanted to kill them by subtlety. Now we turn around and we see the same thing with the scribes and Pharisees. So they're showing who their father is and what they savor. The word in Greek for subtlety is craft, deceit, or guile, and that word is dolos, which takes us again to how that's skillful. So we know that Hashatan is always going to try to take you down with some manner of craftiness or skill. That's how he operates. That's how he gets you. It's going to be trying to be something smooth. So when we read in Psalms 140, what did it say about these people who were coming to do this evil? He was telling you that he was Satan's seed. If you were paying attention, he sat back and said they sharpen their tongues like a serpent, and added poison is under their lips. Because they're going to become talking like the adversary. Because remember, he said the adversary is walking around like a roaring lion. He's got heat. He's got anger. He's got anger. That's how he came at Eve. That's why we read that about Eve. Not focusing on that she committed the transgression, but the deception. And how he came about to execute the deception through subtlety. And that's how they coming. So they showing that they the serpent seed. Because what were they looking at? If you paid attention in John 11, it said if we don't do something, he's going to take away our place and nation, our spot. They were worried about the things of man. They were envious. They were jealous. This was caused the machinations and the plan and the device and the instrument of death to take him down. The same way with Jeremiah. He spoke against what the people were doing. He seen what they were doing and spoke against it. They put together devices and a plan to take him down. All because he stood up for what was right. And all of these things are the devices and the plans, the same things that we looked at on Wednesday. All these things came about because the word of Alahym is not resting in people's heart. And because it's not resting in your heart, you will put together plans that are contrary to this man's word, and you will act upon them, and you risk your soul being lost. And for what? And for what? Now, whether you hear me, hear the word of Yahuwah. Just like what he told Ezekiel. He said, they will not hear you because they don't listen to me. But you people not sitting back looking at all Ezekiel is saying is what the word of Yah said. All I'm saying is what the word of Yah say. He's just a ventriloquist. It's my voice. It's his word. That's it. So you need to hear him. That's the reason why he said, believe in Yahuwah and his prophets and you'll be established. Because if you believe in his servants, then you would understand his servants are saying his word, whoever they may be. I'm not referencing myself personally. I'm talking about period. Whoever are his servants, period. He's going to be speaking his word. His word is going to cause you to consider to turn from your evil and wicked ways. Not just fill you up with information. Not just fill you up with this, that, there, and the third. But to cause you to return. And if they're not giving a message to cause you a return, then of course you're going to remain wicked. But now if you're getting a message being heard that's telling you to return and you return not, then you just like them people in Jeremiah chapter 6. Your ear is uncircumcised and the word of Yahuwah is a reproach unto you. And he told you, seek ye the ancient paths, meaning sacrifice yourself to enter into the door to the old way and you'll find rest to your soul. But you said, I will not walk therein. I'm going to do what I want to do. Know that there's a difference. Listen to the next thing he said. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people. Now when Yahushua was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. Oh, we good on that. We need to read all that. Verse 14. Then one of the 12 called Judas Iscariot went unto the chief priests and said unto them, what will you give me, and I will deliver him to you? And they coveted with him 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he saw opportunity to betray him. So now the plan been set. They put together. Yahushua being prayed to be kept from the violent man. You should know when you get prayed to kept from the violent man. Because over there, when you get to about verse 36, this man prayed that that cup be taken from him. But he also know that Yahuwah will execute vengeance on his behalf and stand up firm in his behalf because Yahuwah is just and righteous. He said it is small. Matter of fact, let's just read it for comfort for all. 2 Thessalonians chapter 1. And after that, we swing to Ecclesiastes 7 and 26 and Genesis 8 and 21. And we're going to round this out with two different things because of how Yahuwah going to help deal with the fact that your imaginations and the thoughts of your heart are only evil continually. And Yahuwah willing, I'll definitely know by tomorrow if we'll continue this particular topic or move to something else. My mind say we probably keep on going with it, and that's just the theme for the week because there is a whole lot more remaining that we have not even laid on the table. 2 Thessalonians 1 and 4. But it's all about your heart. I've said that for the most part since I've known all of you. It's all about your heart. Your heart is the issue. Your heart is the problem. Get your heart right, your soul will be right. Keep your heart wrong, and you're going to hell. And that's the bottom line. And I can't do anything about that. Because it's not my job to change your heart. It's the word of Yahuwah's job to change your heart. The question of the matter is, will you allow the word in? Because once you allow the word in, you're going to do what you got to do. You're going to lose what you got to lose. He said, shoot. He said, I count all things but dung that I might win the excellency of the knowledge of Yahushua HaMashiach. Not counting those things that are behind, but those things are ahead. I strive to hit the mark. Knowing that in Hebrew, sin represents not hitting the mark. So if people, places, or things will cause you not to hit the mark, you got to count them things as dung. So you can hit the mark. What had to be lost had to be lost. As long as you don't lose your soul. It's a game now. He said, gather my Kadeshim together who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. When you hit that water, you were making a covenant that you were going to sacrifice for Yahuwah. Where does sacrifice at? Or you only sacrificing what you feel, or you pulling a cane. You sacrificing what you feel like sacrificing. What you feel like is acceptable to bring to him versus Abel who gave it all. Held nothing back. Don't be around here pulling Ananias and Sapphira, keeping back a part of the price. You've been bought with a price. Don't keep back a part of the price. Get a whole thing up. You're going to get more in the end. If you relinquish everything, you're going to get more in the end. But see, you're looking at what you can get right now. You want that instant gratification. You ain't got no patience. Which means you ain't got no faith. Which means you don't trust Yahuwah. Which means you naturally wicked in and of itself. So that we ourselves esteem, and this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 4. So we ourselves esteem in you in the synagogues of Alahym for your patience and faith, and all your persecutions and tribulations that ye endure, which is a manifest token of the righteous judgment of Alahym, that you may be counted worthy of the kingdom of Alahym, for which ye also suffer. Seeing it is a righteous thing with Alahym to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. It's a righteous thing to Alahym for him to take out and take over and destroy and kill anyone who bring trouble your way for standing on the word. I know it's a hard pill to swallow depending on who it is that's troubling you. But he said it's a righteous thing for him to do this. And you can't have no pity on him. I wonder how would some of you feel? Because he tell you, and I know the women necessarily wouldn't have to, not necessarily, they're not going to partake in what I'm about to state, but just for the sake of the visualization, the women just visualize that you would be partaking in this. How would you feel knowing that the books say that we would execute judgment, that you had to execute judgment on your parents? Would you hesitate? What about your own child? Would you hesitate? What about if it's a childhood friend? Maybe a college friend, high school friend, maybe a work friend, maybe it's your favorite cousin, maybe it's your sibling, and you the one got to execute judgment. Would you have pity on them? Would you hesitate? You have to think about that, because you may have to do that. Mainly the men, you may have to do that. You may have to execute judgment on your own mama. You might have to execute judgment on your brother. You might have to execute judgment on a man you grew up with since you were 5. You know him your whole life. Nigga, you were tight with in high school. Nigga, you met your freshman year, that was your nigga. You still kept in touch all these years. You still link up, do this, that, then the third. And you got to be the one to execute judgment upon him. Knowing that our law say don't pity. Say if it was your mama or your husband or your wife that told you to serve another God, he said you supposed to be the first one to put the stone upside his head. That's Deuteronomy 13 for those who are not aware. You had to be the first one to do it. He told you not to pity him. Now I'm saying that for not the purpose of having the delight and thought of executing judgment or killing someone. You know what I'm talking about? What I'm telling you that is for to stand up for judgment and what's right in the face of that individual, irregardless of who it was, and to not have any pity or emotion in regards to the execution of said judgment, because at that point you would be saying that Yahuwah judgment is incorrect. That's the point. That's the point. That's why he told you not to. You got to remember the Levites, he said, who is on Yahuwah's side when they were worshiping that golden calf? You got to remember, whose side are you on? Are you on your friend's side? Are you on your family's side? Are you on the world's side? Or are you on Yahuwah's side? Even the case with people, because some of y'all know some of the situations, some of y'all done seen it too, that people side with people who profess to be in the word and them niggas be wrong. And them niggas know they be wrong on a particular matter. And a nigga side with that individual versus side with Yahuwah. You got to side with Yahuwah, not with your homeboy. Not with your aunt. Not with your brother. Not with your nigga. You got to side with the power and creator of Shamahim and the Rats. Yahuwah hosts is his name. That's who you got to side with. That's whose side you're supposed to be on. Because you seen what happened to the people who was not on his side. The sword fell on their head. The same thing that's going to happen when a Mashiach come back. The sword's going to fall on their head because they were not on the right hand side. They were on the left hand side with the goats. So now they got to be cast into a fire prepared for the devil and his angels. You got to consider that. Whose side are you on? And the devices, plans, and intentions show whose side you on. Nevertheless, I have another thing in my head about that tree, but I didn't get it. So most High will another time. Ecclesiastes 7:26. All I did pray is everybody consider, weigh, and go along with what Yahuwah say. No matter what I say, go along with what Yahuwah says. I can give you counsel all day long. Y'all knows I'm gonna give you counsel according to what the book say. But at the end of the day, the decision is left with. See, a lot of people, and I guess I don't know really where that come from. Maybe it come from the Christian church, of which I have no experience in. So some of y'all would maybe have to enlighten me on that, who had that experience, or what people feel like if the preacher says something, then that's just what they have to do. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do anything. You know what I'm saying? You could, because Yahuwah tell you, like I said, he give you the commandment and the edict and the decree to obey him. You don't got to do it, but you have to suffer that consequence. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm going to try to influence you and persuade you to do what is right. But at the end of the day, the decision rests with you. Because I can't make it for you. You know what I'm saying? Don't make a decision that you feel like I'm going to be pleased with. Make the decision that Yahuwah is going to be pleased with. I think sometimes people misinterpret that because they seeking to please the man when you need to be seeking to please the man who that man represents. You need to be seeking to please Yahuwah. Because his counsel is going to stand. His purpose is going to stand. His will is going to stand. Now the question is, will you stand with righteousness or will you stand with unrighteousness in his counsel and in his purpose? And that's going to be reflective on you. The preacher has nothing to do with that. The brothers and sisters with you in the word have nothing to do with that. That is solely contingent on the individual. What will that person do when they hear the word? Will they believe it? Will they obey it? Will they adhere it? If they receive counsel that is in line with the word, will you hearken to that counsel? Or will you follow your own counsel that is contrary to the word? Because sometimes we try to get stuff to fit it on what we're trying to do, and try to conflate the word to go along with what it is we're trying to do to make ourselves feel better about that decision. But Ecclesiastes 7:26, we'll make it 25. I applied my heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom, the reason of things, and to know wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman, whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands is bands. Whoso please Alahym shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account. Which yet my soul seek, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I not found. Lo, this only have I found. The Alahym have made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. I'm going to read that again just so niggas don't get it twisted. Because I know a lot of people like to blame y'all for a lot of things, but you ain't finna blame y'all for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Don't blame y'all because you wicked. Blame yourself for being wicked. That's all I can say. Blame yourself for being wicked. Don't blame y'all for it. Lo, this only have I found. The Alahym made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. So, when we look at found, and yes, I'm going to be that anal about it. The word is matzah, is to find and to attain and to detect and to guess and to find out. So he said, I found out. Saith the preacher. Saith the core left, the arranger of sentences, counting one by one, meaning a card, to find out the account. That man, he said, when he found that out, he said, he made man upright. That word for upright is yashar, straight, upright, correct, straightforward, fitting, proper, righteous. Yahuwah made man righteous. But he said man sought out many inventions. When we look at sought out, of course, that's the word bakash, that's to seek or to secure or to desire. So man desired many different plans. That word for inventions in this particular verse is keshivan, and that's device or invention. You want to sit out and seek out to do many different things. Yahuwah ain't had nothing to do with that. That's why James, the Apostle James, wrote, if a man is enticed, he's enticed and drawn away of his own lust. It ain't because Yahuwah made you that way. That's you, nigga. You wanted to go do that. Stop blaming him for that. That's you. But see, let's look at something else in the law. Genesis 8:21. I just needed to let that be known. Yahuwah made man upright. I know a lot of people are like, what? Well, why he made us to do that? He ain't make you to do nothing. He made you to obey him. You chose not to do so. Take some responsibility for your actions. That's what people don't want to do when it comes to 8:20. That's what people don't want to do when it comes down to Yahuwah. Genesis 8:20. They don't want to take responsibility for their actions. It's always y'all's fault. It's always y'all. It's never them. You wicked bastard, may you burn with expedience. You know what I'm talking about? Finna keep blaming this man for your wickedness. Man ain't got nothing to do with that. No, and Noah built an altar unto Yahuwah, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered up burnt offerings on the altar. And Yahuwah smelled a sweet savor. And remember what he told you in Ephesians 5, that Mashiach offered himself as a sweet smelling savor. And Yahuwah said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. Now let's look at that. That man say that man's heart has been evil. The imaginations of man's heart have been evil from his youth. But he said he wouldn't curse the ground anymore for man's sake. He says what he wouldn't do. Well, again, when we look at imagination, that word is yetzer, and that's that framework or device. The things that your mind is framing to do. We know if he said that you've been evil from your youth, your imagination has been evil from your youth, that's taking you back to Adam, your early life. But let's look how he said he wouldn't curse the ground, because some of y'all should remember that Noah's name means comforter. So he said he wouldn't do that because your mind was wicked. So let's go over here to John chapter 16. Or John 14, I should say. And verse 26. And after that, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. I guess I could say most some of this y'all will from tomorrow, because it's already after 11. But you should get the point. Because the imaginations or the framework or the thoughts of your mind was evil, that man said he wouldn't curse the ground again. He would put a blessing in the ground. That blessing was the body of Yahushua HaMashiach that came up out of the ground to give you a new mind. A new mind to where your imaginations would no longer be evil, but that your imaginations would be just. And no, I'm not going to leave this incomplete. That just would be a gross miscarriage. But the Comforter, which is the Ruach HaKadosh, whom the Father will send in my name, shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. Shalom I leave with you, my shalom I give unto you. Not as the world give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Now that Comforter, again, that's Noah's name. You go check it in Genesis 5, if I'm not mistaken. He said he will comfort the ground which he have cursed. Yahuwah made a proclamation in his Torah that he would no longer curse the ground, knowing that man's heart was continually evil from his youth. Now he said he made man upright, but man sought out many inventions. We see that with Adam and Eve. They sought out a different invention. He made you just and upright, and you sought out to do your own will. You sought out to follow your own desires. He said, I won't curse the ground anymore for your sake. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And after that, Romans 5. 15 and 3. 1 Corinthians 15 and 3. So the reason why we ended with this part, coinciding with the whole framework of what we've been looking at, knowing that the thought of foolishness is sin, and things of that nature is, he brought something out to give you a different mind, to give you a different heart. That's why you got to be born again. That's why you got to be born again, and to get a new one. And after Romans 5, we're going to look at Ephesians 4, and we're going to call it a night from there. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received, how that Mashiach died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures. So he was buried, and he was rose again the third day. Now let's drop down to verse 16. For if the dead rise not, then is not Mashiach raised. And if Mashiach be not raised, your faith is vain, and ye are yet in your sins. Then they also which are fallen asleep in Mashiach are perished. If then in this life only we have hope in Mashiach, we are all men most miserable. But now is Mashiach risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept. For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Mashiach shall all be made alive. Now remember, anything that's cursed is going to have something that's going to bring damnation or bring death on it. He said he would no longer curse the ground for your sake. The ground has been blessed by that seed that was placed in it. or the sweet smelling savor of the offering and sacrifice of Yahushua HaMashiach. So now no longer this ground or this flesh is no longer cursed. If you abide in him and he abide in you, then he said that he will be able to quicken whom he will, or to make alive whom he will. And therefore, the thoughts that's in your head will become in line with the thoughts that are in Yahuwah's heart, as we read in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 1. Arm yourself with the same mind that he had. He suffered in the flesh. He ceased from sin. Simple as that. Romans 5, though. Five and 14, I suppose. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come. But not as the defense, so also is the free gift. For through the offense of one many be dead, much more the favor of Alahym, and by the gift, by favor which is by one man, Yahushua HaMashiach, have abounded unto many. And not as it was by one that sinned, so with the gift. For the judgment was by one to condemnation, but the free gift is of many offenses unto justification. For if by one man's offense death reigned by one, much more they which received abundance of favor and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one, Yahushua HaMashiach. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so by the righteousness of one the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life. For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. So by one man's sin caused the ground to be cursed, one man's obedience caused that curse to be removed. That's why we focus on Noah offering the burnt offerings and sacrifices, and Yahuwah smelling a sweet savor. Yahushua is the burnt offering and sacrifices for that sweet smelling savor, which removes the curse from the ground. This is why I say you're no longer under the curse of the law, because you've been redeemed from it. Because cursed be he that hangeth from a tree. He has removed that curse. So when we finish it here in Ephesians 4 and 20, it causes us to do this one thing right here. Or 4 and 22. That you put off concerning the former behavior the old man which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the ruach of your mind, and that you put on the new man which after Alahym is created in righteousness and true Kadash. Because at that point you would no longer seek out the many inventions of your own heart, and you would seek out the inventions of Alahym, and then you would become perfect and your soul will be delivered. But hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. We will stop it right there.